Hello there my RPG lovers and welcome to another video. When Shadow of Mordor came out in 2014, it introduced a really interesting gameplay system called the Nemesis. When you start a new playthrough, all enemies who are controlled by this system are randomly generated. As you progress through the game, your actions will affect those enemies in various ways, making your encounters with them feel unique and interesting. The Nemesis is defined by many different factors such as names, character model, power levels, ranks, relationship, fighting styles, and so on. Since the Nemesis system was so innovative, people expected that more games will start implementing similar gameplay features. But this wasn't the case and we had to wait for the sequel to Shadow of Mordor in order to experience this system again. Monolith took the same formula for the sequel, but they improved it even further. For example, Uruks and Ologs can become blood brothers with another Nemesis, and if you kill one of them, the other will seek revenge. Shadow of War also introduced advanced classes, which gave the orcs even more special gameplay traits. While the Nemesis system heavily affects your gameplay, it's also creating memorable characters and interactions.
Do you know how much grog I've had? I don't. But I do know that I'm gonna kill you. And then... oh wait, I'm gonna have some more grog. And then I'm gonna kill you!
This system is really complex, which might be one of the reasons why we're not seeing something similar in other games. However, in 2018 Assassins Creed Odyssey released, and it had one gameplay feature that resembles the Nemesis system. The mercenaries in this game worked really similar to the orcs of Shadow of Mordor. They had randomly generated names, gear, level, strength and weaknesses, and they wandered the world doing bounties and defending camps. For the most part they are not aggressive and you can stumble upon them in different locations of the world. But if you commit crimes, a bounty will be placed on your head, and this meter will tell you how many mercenaries are trying to hunt you down. Ubisoft definitely took some notes from the Middle-earth series, but the mercenaries in Odyssey can be considered as a very light version of the Nemesis system. I'm not saying that as a bad thing, the mercenaries definitely added more depth to the gameplay in Odyssey. But this actually started with Assassin's Creed Origins when they introduced Philex. Philex were elite enemies that you would encounter in the world, and that's pretty much it. But then Odyssey came out and improved this system quite a bit, to the point when it started to resemble the Nemesis system. Sometimes it felt like a crime system from GTA with stars, but that's not a huge issue. While the mercenaries definitely added more interesting gameplay features, they lacked the personality and memorable interaction. Apart from the written text you can read in the menu, there is not much about them to make them interesting from the narrative point of view. There is no dialogue interaction between your character and the mercenaries, so these NPCs are really one-dimensional. If we judge it by itself, the mercenaries in Odyssey are a breath of fresh air for this series, but compared to the Nemesis system, they feel vastly underdeveloped. Actually, even the gameplay features lack the depth of the original Nemesis system. We have to understand that these two games are really different when it comes to the lore and the story, but I feel like Ubisoft could implement more similar gameplay features from Shadow of War. One of the most interesting things when it comes to Nemesis enemies in Shadow of War was how the game handles their death. What happens to a Nemesis after he dies in the system is mainly dependent on the way he was killed. If the Nemesis retains his head after dying, there is a chance he might have actually survived and return unexpectedly with scars, sackled bag and string wrapped around his head, metal plates on his skull or some combinations of thereof. He can return multiple times as long as his head was not cut off. If the head is cut off, then that particular Nemesis will never return and he is represented in the Nemesis system as a severed head on a spike, instead of a corpse. That's just one of the unique mechanics from the Nemesis system in Shadow of War. But Ubisoft is probably going to improve their mercenary system even further in the next Assassin's Creed game, and that will be interesting to see. I think that Odyssey is a great example of why it's so hard to implement the Nemesis system. In Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, almost the whole gameplay loop is revolved around the Nemesis system. That explains its depth and complexity because it was the main focus of the gameplay. Other games would have to do the same if they want to create similar gameplay features, but at the cost of sacrificing other features. And not many developers are ready for such a decision, and I don't blame them. Odyssey broke the ice, so I'm expecting to see more games with at least some glimpses of the Nemesis system. I can't stop thinking about action RPGs and how would that genre benefit from this. especially because there are usually a lot of enemy types who are there just to be killed by the player. Bandits would be the most common enemy type, and I think they would benefit a lot from the Nemesis system. Imagine the Elder Scrolls 6 with this system. You kill a bandit chief, but somehow he actually survives, becomes stronger, and tries to kill you later on while having some unique dialogue lines. Suddenly, the most common enemy type is not just there waiting to be killed by the player. And what's even greater about this, you're the one who is creating all these scenarios with your actions through gameplay. This is one of the reasons why the Nemesis system is so brilliant in its core. It offers you a huge variety of outcomes while constantly adapting to your gameplay decisions. I have a huge respect for Monolith for creating such a complex gameplay mechanic, but I think it would work even better in an action RPG, if implemented correctly of course. The gameplay doesn't need to be revolved around this one system like in Shadow of War, and I think that Odyssey had the right idea, but it felt a little bit unfinished. I just hope that people don't forget about this amazing system and we get to see it in more games. And what about you? Tell me your opinion about the Nemesis system, and do you agree or disagree with me? Leave a comment down below. Press the thumbs up button if you liked the video and subscribe for more content. Click on the bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads. Special thanks to my Patreons and YouTube exclusive members. If you consider supporting this channel in a long run, Patreon is definitely the best place to do that. That would be all, and I'll see you in the next one.